Parshas Korach, Tavshin Ayin Hey. You know, when I was looking through the Shiurim the last few years on Parshas Korach, something very, very surprising. Although when you learn Parshas Korach, really this very important lesson is not so surprising. And what it seems that every single year when we do this Shiur on Parshas Korach, we get into a discussion about the terrible, terrible inyan of machlokes. And it's no surprise because really that is the theme of this week's Parsha. And if you learn through the Sifrei Chafetz Chaim, you learn through different things, machlokes is still probably one of the worst things a person can do and a person can get involved in. And the truth is that basically every single piece of Nesivos Shalom on this week's Parsha speaks about and decries the calamities that machlokes brings about in the world, in your life, in your family, in your circles. Nesivos Shalom speaks the entire Parsha about the terrible, terrible inyan of machlokes. And really, so it's very, very kedai for us to review this lesson all the time. The Nesivos Shalom brings a Zohar. The Zohar looks at this machlokes of Korach, and he looks at it in a very, very interesting way. The Zohar says like this: since Korach was involved with machlokes, that Korach was disputing the inyan of Shalom. Now we're going to try to explain what that means, but he says that Korach was disputing this whole idea, and there's an idea in the world of Shalom. Korach was disputing that. And one who disputes Shalom, says the Zohar, disputes the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because we know one of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Shalom. So by Korach causing machlokes, first of all, he disputed Shalom. And if you carry it on a little further, Korach was disputing the existence, in a way, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And not only did Korach dispute Shalom and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Nesivos Shalom brings down this Zohar, and the Zohar continues. And he says that Korach disputed, because of this machlokes, Korach disputed Shabbos. And of course, this requires an explanation what that means. It says, because Shabbos, he says, Shabbos brings peace into the world, brings peace between the different worlds, the Olam Elyon, the Olam Atachton. Shabbos does the world of above, the world of below. Everything is together on Shabbos. So one who gets in the way of this is lost from this world. Korach was disputing this whole idea of Shabbos also. And the Zohar continued. Not only Shalom, not only HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not only Shabbos, but so too, by causing machlokes, Korach was denying the Torah. And the Torah, we know, the Torah is referred to as Shalom also, as we say, L'chol Nesivos Shalom. The ways of the Torah are Shalom, peace. So we see now that Korach went against the Torah also by causing machlokes. So what does this mean that Korach disputed the inyan of Shalom in all these different ways? How does that work? Let me ask you, did Korach really feel that machlokes is good? We say Korach disputed Shalom. But Korach, if you would have asked Korach that morning, Korach was a gadol. Doyle Ador, Korach, do you think machlokes is good? No. Of course machlokes is not good. Right? Did he dispute? Did he want to dispute the name of Hashem? No. Did Korach want to dispute the Torah? No. Did he want to dispute Shabbos? No. So what are we talking about? Korach, what was Korach's problem? Korach had a taina about the kahuna with Moshe Rabbeinu. He had an argument with Moshe Rabbeinu, machlokes Moshe Rabbeinu, but if you would have asked, Korach, do you dispute any of these things? He would have said no. So what's the Zohar referring to? That Korach disputed every one of these things. How does the machlokes of Moshe Rabbeinu translate to disputing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shabbos, Torah, and all the things that we mentioned? And what are the lessons to be learned from this whole thing? Nesivos Shalom says a beautiful, beautiful vart, and you have to think of this vart and remember this vart whenever you want to get involved in machlokes, chas v'shalom. Nesivos Shalom says we first need to understand what Shalom is. Many people feel that Shalom means the absence of machlokes. You ask somebody, do you have shalom right now? Is there peace? Yeah, of course there's peace. I didn't fight with anybody today. I didn't argue with anybody. There was no machlokes today. He says, no, that's not shalom. Shalom is an actual entity to itself. It's not the absence of something. It's not the absence of fighting with somebody, absence of machlokes. As we see shalom being an entity, he says, Shalom b'mroimov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes shalom. He creates shalom. He wants shalom. It's an obligation on its own that we have to be people of shalom. The world has to be a place of shalom. The Medrash in Parshas Korach tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Klal Yisrael that everything in this world was created in pairs. Two. We know Shamayim va'aretz. There was Shamayim and Aretz. The Chama u'Levana. There was the sun and the moon. Adam and Chava. Created, pair. Olam hazeh, olam haba. Right? The way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created things in this world was in pairs. But there's one thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only thing that stands alone. Everything else is in pairs. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem Echad. Hashem was one. But the world was set up, Zok the Medrash, with a mashpia and a mekaber. The way everything works is give and take. And that's called really peace, where everybody knows their place. There's a giver and a taker. And you have your place, what you're supposed to be doing, giving or taking at that moment. There's one who gives and another who receives. And the sun and the moon work that way. They work together. Right? And they work that way since day one. And this giving and taking, in order for the world to continue and the world to continue on in peace, this giving and taking has to continue peacefully. It has to go on. HaKadosh Baruch Hu set the world in motion like this, and it's constantly happening. Okay, there are things like this, like they're, so to speak, they're old. HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up the world with the Chama, the Levana, and the way these things are, and they have to constantly, peacefully coexist and give and take with each other in order for the world to continue. And then, besides that, there are new things. There are new chidushim every day. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaMachadesh B'tuvoi B'chol Yom Tomid Maaseh Bereishis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have the old things, the things that were set in motion when the world was started, and then we have the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that on a day-to-day basis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates, there's new things happening. And Hashem is continuously creating and renewing these things. And that's called Shalom, because these new things also need to, everybody has to know their place. You're giving and you're taking. And the Torah works that way, where there's always chiddush, there's always new things happening, there's always new things there's always new chiddush in Torah. Very interesting, Tiferes Shlomo. See, Shalom brings down Tiferes Shlomo in our parsha, and he says that Shabbos is that way too, because Shabbos constantly is the giver. Shabbos supplies the bracha for the rest of the week. For Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos gives the bracha and is the noisein, is the mashpia for all the other 6 days of the week. And it's along this theme that we really, once we understand this, that the world is set up with that giving and taking, and they have to remain at peace with each other, now we can understand the questions that we asked about Korach. And why Korach was disputing this whole idea of Shalom. Because we said, what Korach had a problem with Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't have a problem with Shalom. What was the problem with Korach? Korach felt, Ki kol ha'edah kulam kedoshim. Everyone is the same. Everyone has the same job. Moshe Rabbeinu, you, who do you think you are? Everyone's the same. Everyone's on an even plane. So you know what? You're disputing the entire way the world was set up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up the world, Mashpia and Mekabel. We don't need a Moshe Rabbeinu who said Korach. We don't need a Mashpia. We're all the same. Yeah, maybe we needed Moshe Rabbeinu for Kabbalah Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu, you did us that favor. Thank you very much. You got us a Kabbalah Torah. Now we're all the same. Everybody's the same. So now, Korach went ahead and he disputed the Kahuna Gedolah. He disputed. He said, well, I'm just as good as anybody else. Why is somebody better? We don't need a Mashpia and a Makabel. And so too Shabbos. He was disputing, when we wanted to know, how was Korach disputing Shabbos? Korach, he was disputing the whole way the world was set up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up that Shabbos comes and Shabbos Kodesh is mashpia and gives us the bracha and gives us our parnasa, gives us the strength to get through the whole week. That's a mashpia. Korach, you're denying that. You're saying everything's the same. All people are the same. All days are the same. Everybody is on one even playing field. And it's for that reason, Dr. Nesivos Shalom, that the punishment of Korach was so great. It was so severe because Korach, yes, he denied Shalom. He denied Shabbos. He denied the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Korach denied all these things because he denied a fundamental way that the world was set up. And we need to keep this in mind. We need to keep this in mind when a person approaches a situation where Chas v'Shalom, it's possible that you're going to get involved in machlokes. The way HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at machlokes, it's not just you're having a little argument with somebody else. I disagree on this. First of all, most of the time, a person should tell themselves, what does it have to do with me? I'm not getting involved. For some reason, there's a machlokes, and this group of people, and that group of people, this chassidus, that chassidus, this yeshiva, that rosh yeshiva, what are you getting involved in? Because Baruch Hu frowns right away upon a person. Stay home, stay out of the way. Be like the ones in the Parshas Korach this week. Be like the ones who were saved, who at the end of the day did not get involved in machlokes. And we have to know that when we get involved in machlokes, we're denying Shabbos. We're denying HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're denying the Torah. It's much bigger than we think. Let's learn the lessons of this week's Parsha. Let's internalize these lessons. And maybe, Taka, if we all do our little bit, and we run away from machlokes like it's fire, because the punishment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Korach is, the punishment is still, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still angry about people who cause machlokes. If we each do our little bit, and we each stay away from machlokes, we'll be able to bring the ultimate day, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. S.S.S. Shalom Shiur Parshas, we should have to be zeicha to learn the